Dialogue.
It's 6 o'clock in Dakar, 7 o'clock in Lagos. Good evening and many thanks for staying tuned to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM and around the world. We are live on wadr.org. Welcome to Newslink. Here are the top stories. Central slams President Joseph Boakai administration for failing to deliver on promises of transparency and reforms. Gambian President Barrow confirms a third-term presidential bid ahead of 2026 elections.
I'll give you a direct answer, yes. It is not about President Barrow, it's about my party. My party is a very young party, and I don't want my party to die at the infant stage. From here, I thought that this time, but all of them think that it's too early for me to leave.
West Africa Civil Society Institute WACSI calls on African government and various CSOs to look for indigenous and flexible models of funding in order to be sustainable. The Nigerian police arrest more than 200 undocumented immigrants in northwestern Kebbi State. Civil society organizations in Togo demand a roadmap for the 3-year 540 billion CFA France development project for community. Details of these stories and more coming up shortly. Stay with us.
You are listening to West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting from Dakar, Senegal.
Many thanks for joining us and a warm welcome to our listeners in Ghana, Liberia, Sierra Leone and the Gambia, where a section of the population is outraged by recent comments from President Adama Barrow. In an interview on local channel, the Gambian leader confirmed the intention to run for a third term in the upcoming 2026 general elections, even though he had initially thought of stepping down. The decision to run for office, according to President Adama Barrow, is to save his National People's Party (NPP) from an early political death. The president announcement has since provoked mixed reactions among Gambians, with some accusing him of prioritizing his party over the need of the citizens and contravening the very defining principles of democratic governance, which is respect for term limits. From Banjul, WADR Sankule Janko tells us more.
President Barrow, during a recent interview with a local TV, admitted that he thought it was time for him to step down ahead of the 2026 presidential election. However, it appears the longevity of his National People's Party (NPP) overrides his perceived advocacy for a 2-term limit. Asked if he would contest in the 2026 presidential election, the Gambian leader responded saying,
I'll give you a direct answer, yes. It is not about President Barrow, it's about my party. My party is a very young party, and I don't want my party to die at the infant stage. From here, I thought that this time, but all of them think that it's too early for me to leave.
This comment by the Gambian leader has sparked outrage in a section of the population, many of whom expressed disappointment.
As a young Gambian, I'm really disappointed with the president's utterances. That is not a very good reason to do away with the third term. That's a weak and a very feeble excuse.
If Barrow definitely loved Gambia and loved the Gambians, Barrow should just leave office. He should even resign before the election comes. I see zero future for this country under Barrow's presidency. So for crying out loud, I am asking Barrow, can you please step down?
Meanwhile, civil society organizations have raised concerns and called on President Adama Barrow to reconsider his decision. One such CSO is Edward Francis Small Center for Rights and Justice, and its head Madi Jabate spoke to WDR.
We have issued a statement to ask President Barrow to not seek a third term, not only because he himself had mentioned that no government should be president for more than 10 years, but also because one of the reasons for the creation of the 2016 coalition was to institutionalize presidential term limits for 2 terms in order to end self-perpetuating rule.
Political analysts say a third-term bid could tarnish President Barrow's overall democratic legacy, particularly as ECOWAS steps up efforts to promote term limit among its member countries. For some Gambians, President Barrow, who advocates respect for constitutional term limits, is seemingly opposing this cardinal democratic principle. For Newslink West Africa Democracy Radio, I am Sankule Janko reporting from Banjul.
Let's head to Liberia at the moment because the Center for Transparency and Accountability, CENTAL, has voiced grave disappointment with President Joseph Boakai administration, accusing it of neglecting the urgent concerns of Liberian people just over a year into its governance, highlighting a troubling disconnect between President Joseph Boakai's inaugural promise for a new Liberia marked by the rule of law and accountability. CENTAL's Executive Director Addison Miami raised serious questions about the recent controversial actions, including an alleged illegal removal of officials and hefty settlements paid to former Central Governor Aloysius Talu.
We are shocked that the Boakai's administration elected to spend nearly $500,000 of the Liberian people's money to facilitate the removal of Talu. We are not remiss of the fact that the Boakai administration potentially executed many of such agreements to the tune of millions of dollars. And since it is now clear that these agreements are signed on a strict terms of confidentiality, the Liberian people will truly never get to know how much the administration is dishing out to people illegally removed in favor of the Boakai's appointees. Ladies and gentlemen of the press, in the midst of high levels of poverty and a plethora of development needs, tax dollars of Liberians have largely ended up in the pockets of few high-ranking officials of government who live lavishly on the sweat of ordinary Liberians. Allegations have abounded in the media that top officials of the LTA are earning monthly salaries and benefits exceeding $15,000 United States dollars. The situation led to President Boakai commissioning the Bureau of State Enterprise to investigate the claims and provide recommendations. For more than half a year now, there is no public record available about the outcome of the investigation into the matter. President's Asset Declaration Directive largely ignored. Since January 2024, several officials of the Boakai Kong administration have refused to adhere to the legal requirement of declaring the assets, incomes, and liability before taking office. In its report released in August 2024, the Liberia Anti-Corruption Commission reported a meager 26.5% compliance level.
Anderson Miami is the CENTAL's Executive Director. To other developments, the Transitional Authorities of Niger has asked the International Committee of the Red Cross ICRC to leave the Sahel country. Though reasons for the exit are unclear, the move comes at a time government aims to solidify its sovereignty as an AES country that focuses on using its own resources for national development while strengthening institutions. Already, Niger is among the institutions that have cut ties with the French troops for failing to fight insurgencies. More in this report with Abdullah Hassan.
The International Committee of the Red Cross ICRC has been ordered to leave Niger. The Nigerian authorities have not given any reason to justify this decision, which has been given through verbal notice demanding the departure of the NGO. However, Nigerian civil society and partner of the International Committee of the Red Cross ICRC noted that the Nigerian Ministry of Foreign Affairs denounced the organization's headquarters agreements. Niamey also orders with immediate effect the departure of Red Cross expatriate staff. Similar treatment was reserved for the French NGO acted and its Nigerian partner APBE less than 3 months ago. For the moment, the ICRC has not publicly reacted. However, the results of its action in Niger during the first half of 2024 were published on its website on Tuesday, 4 February, the same day that its expulsion from the country was announced. The ICRC has been present in Niger for 35 years with offices in Difa, Tillaberi, and Tahoua, and is pleased to have provided healthcare to more than 120,000 victims of armed conflict last year.
Abdullah Hassan filed the report.
More stories coming up on West Africa Democracy Radio. Newslink continues.
Now, West Africa Democracy Radio, WADR's partner organization, the West Africa Civil Society Institute, WACSI, has called on African government and various civil society organizations to look for indigenous and flexible models of funding in order to be sustainable. In an interview, the head of communication for WACSI, Meron Daniel, called for diversification of dependency on foreign aid. Her comment comes at a time the American donor USAID has decided to cut aids and funding to Africa. Africa, as WAXI, Bond UK and the Foreign Commonwealth and Development Office, FCDO, launched a transformative roadmap next week, February 12th, to redefine global civil society partnership across the globe with the aim to shift power dynamics, strengthen local leadership, and promote trust-based funding.
Ones who are very much impacted by this sudden halt of USAID aid are always the ones that have always been hard hit by any situation, and those are the ones that are the most vulnerable, which you find in Africa and in many developing countries who are found mainly in Africa. So the impact is going to be not small. It's going to be huge. We're talking about people that are depending on aid for food, for their daily existence. We're talking about HIV, malaria medication. We're talking about a lot of programs. Just in WAXI talking, there's been many programs, even though they're not life-saving programs. There were many programs that have been halted completely. So if we're looking at that, then you can imagine what the life-saving programs that are now at risk. So Africa is definitely at risk. So the stakes are high for nations like Ghana and West Africa and other countries. But as you rightly said, these impacts extend beyond, the rural farmers. But this is also an opportunity. An opportunity for Africa to be able to envision different forms of funding model, maybe funding that is not just, donor agenda specific. Maybe this is a time for Africans now to look for indigenous and flexible models of funding to fund ourselves. So this is a question. Did we need to have the carpet, taken out from under our feet to feel the ground? That's a debate. So these are the kind of conversation to think about, and rethinking dependency, rethinking, when we're talking about the framework of decolonizing funding. All of these conversations have been conversations that have been happening parallelly, just so that right now when we have the USAID funding stopped, the pressure just increased automatically. So I'm sure entities such as FCDO are feeling the pressure and the burn as well, because now that the US is reevaluating their strategies, it will come also to nations such as the UK to be able to now renegotiate, because now the need increased tremendously.
And that's the head of communication with the West Africa Civil Society Institute, WAXI, Meron Daniel. To other development, a new organization called the Tamuzok Association has been established as an alliance dedicated to promoting peace and harmony in Mali. This organization brings together several Tuareg communities, including ministers from the northern region of the country. It aims to support the transitional authorities in strengthening peace in northern Mali, an area currently facing heavy security threats. Additionally, the Tamuzok Association has expressed its willingness to engage in dialogue with armed groups, including the Azawad Liberation Front, in pursuit of peace objectives. Let's turn attention to Nigeria at the moment, because the Nigeria police have arrested more than 200 undocumented immigrants in the northwestern state of Kebbi. According to the police services, the immigrants were found living in a 3-bedroom apartment in Brenim, Kebbi, the state capital. The police force maintains that these arrests are part of a crackdown on undocumented migrants and fraudulent activities associated with a scheme known as QNet. From WADR's Usma Uma in Nigeria reports.
In a statement issued by the Police Public Relations Officer CSP Nafiu Abubakar, it was revealed that an operation took place on January 31, 2025, following intelligence reports. During the raid, police detained 165 individuals, all of whom were from Francophone countries. The breakdown of their nationalities include 35 from Burkina Faso, 11 from Benin Republic, 5 from Niger Republic, 4 from Mali, and 110 from Ivory Coast. The investigation determined that these individuals were residing in Nigeria without valid documentation and were allegedly involved in the controversial QNet Ponzi scheme. Following preliminary investigations, the suspected immigrants have been handed over to the Nigeria Immigration Service in Kebbi State for further investigation and appropriate action. This incident raises concerns about the increasing rates of irregular immigration in Nigeria and the challenges authorities face in regulating the flow of undocumented migrants from neighboring West African countries. Experts suggest that such arrest could impact regional relations, particularly as Mali, Burkina Faso, and Niger have recently announced their exit from the Economic Community of West African States, ECOWAS. This development could also complicate issues related to cross-border migration and cooperation in combating illegal activities. For Newslink on West Africa Democracy Radio, Usman Umar reporting from Abuja.
You're still listening to West Africa Democracy Radio Newslink here on 94.9 FM Dakar, Senegal, and online at wadr.org. We're also live on Facebook at WADR English Service, as well as YouTube at WADR News. Here's a reminder of our top stories. Central slams President Joseph Boakai administration for failing to deliver on promises of transparency and reforms. Gambia President Barrow confirmed a third-term presidential bid ahead of 2026 election. West Africa Civil Society Institute WACSI calls on African government and various CSOs to look for indigenous and flexible models of funding in order to be sustainable. The Nigeria police arrest more than 200 undocumented immigrants in northwestern Kebbi State. Still ahead in this package, civil society organizations in Togo demand a roadmap for 3-year 540 billion CFA francs development projects for the country. We also have the guest interview and sports news, so stay with us.
West Africa Democracy Radio. It's you speaking.
To some development from Togo, the government has initiated a 3-year public investment program PIP aimed at fostering the country's development. This new program will take place from 2026 to 2028 with a proposed budget of 540 billion CFA francs. Its objective is to enhance the effectiveness of public investment and ensure that strategic projects align with the government's roadmap of 2020 to 2025 and sustainable development goals. Emo Edit has the rest of the details.
The new 3-year program, officially launched on January 30, 2025, outlines significant reforms to the public investment programming and management system. Through this national plan, the Togolese government seeks to rationalize public spending while maximizing its impact, especially in a global context characterized by economic crisis and budgetary challenges. Meanwhile, the Togolese civil society organization Economic Watch quickly reacted to the announcement of this new project. It is demanding accountability before the commencement of the new program. Dojinete Kumu is the president of the association.
The first thing to do to improve the financial and macro-financial governance of any country is to effectively combat corruption and embezzlement of public funds. The Court of Auditors report on the mismanagement of COVID funds published by the Court of Auditors, we have had no results. The President of the Republic has taken no initiative to stop this impunity that is splurging our country. The first thing to do is to stop the embezzlement of public funds, the siphoning off of the economy.
However, during his speech at the unveiling ceremony, Eju Esohanam, the cabinet director of the Ministry of Planning, Development and Cooperation, stated that ministries and public institutions have been mandated to submit feasibility report, detailed project proposals, and financial agreements. The deadline for submission of these documents is set Monday, February 10, 2025. Additionally, Minister Eju Esohanam revealed that to comply with the International Monetary Fund (IMF) regarding the budget deficit, which is set at 3% of GDP, Togo will prioritize actions that have a significant impact on the population. The development process for Togo's 3-year public investment plan for 2026 to 2028 is expected to continue until March 2025. Recall the previous national investment program was launched in 2023 and will conclude at the end of 2025.
Emo Edit filed the report. To other developments coming in from Côte d'Ivoire, the Ivorian government has commenced the modernization process for its judicial administration. At the end of January 2025, the country unveiled an e-justice.ci platform aimed at securing and digitizing legal documents. Its purpose is to combat fraudulent documentation and provide digital document services. The platform was revealed on Tuesday by the coordinator of digital project of the Ivorian Ministry of Justice. The review process include discussions among experts about the effective and efficient use of platform at the Government Information and Communication Center, CICG.
Politics, analysis on major news, social matters, and all. This is A Guest.
Our guest this evening takes us back to Gambia, where President Adama Barrow's recent statement about him seeking a third term has sparked a nationwide debate. While Barrow constitutionally can contest in the 2026 election, many have queried his motive, which is to save his political party, the NPP. And Deji Jobe, Deputy Speaker of the National Youth Parliament of the Gambia, joins us from Banjul with her reactions and expectations.
Thank you very much. First, I will start with the English statement that says, if it ain't broken, why fix it? And for me, this gives me a reflection of our political history, because I think as a country for the longest time, when we have political discourse, we don't reflect a lot on our political history and why we are here today. And the reason why His Excellency President Adama Barrow was elected in 2016 is because the Gambians decided to remove President Jammeh on various bases. And that has to do with, at the time as a country, we want a change of regime, to have a democratic governance, to have strong and responsible institutions, but also to have a change in morals and values politically as a country, among a lot of other things, but these things most prominently. And when we have a change of government as a country, we come together and say, we are going to reform our institutions and make them stronger and serve purpose. We're going to change our constitution to ensure that we have very democratic laws that ensure as a country we are able to have democratic governance.
So for some of the reasons that you said Gambians wanted a change, and which was the reason President Adama Barrow was elected, would you say that he has done well in some of these areas?
Not very well, because he's vying for his third term. In 2026. That means by next year he has completed 5 terms, and that is 10 years if I am right. And in 10 years we started 3 reforms, and the security sector reform is still going on. There is progress happening. However, the public don't know some of these progress, and there is still a lot to be done. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission, it takes every year for you to have one milestone on the implementation, which is still dragging. It has been 9 years now. And you come to the constitutional reform process. We had a constitution, and thanks to their political selfishness, that constitution was thrown. And now we have a constitution in the parliament which Gambians were not consulted, and we just wake up one day and we see a document being gazetted as Gambians, and we don't know how this document come about. So partly I would say no. And it's one thing doing what you say you would do, and it's another thing how you do what you say you will do. So in this case, it's not the end justify the means, it is the means justifying the ends.
I have followed personally some responses online, and there are Gambians who actually have said perhaps the constitution allows for him to run again because there's no term limit, which is something that the current draft constitution is working on. But if he had maybe bargained differently, that this would have been understood.
A lot of times communication is how you package it. And because what you say is not up to you, the one speaking, what you mean is to the one receiving the information to decipher it, to really understand what you means. So yes, the Constitution gives President Barrow the right to run for a third term, which is okay. And but if you come before the Gambians that wanted a change together with you to tell them, I am running for a third term, simply because my party is young and I don't want it to die. Gambians started asking themselves, where are we placed in this equation? Is it that the political party is more important than the country, or what is it happening? Or are you running for third term simply to keep the party alive? And where is the party internal democracy to ensure that you have mentored and ushered in a new leadership for the party's continuity? And all these questions come into play. And I think that was not a very best fitting response. Maybe leading towards the campaign and the election, President Barrow will reconsider, rephrase, or do whatever with that information when coming back to the Gambians. And it looks a little selfish as a political party leader versus the nation president.
What would be your call to political actors in the Gambia?
As Gambians, we have our fair share of military rule, and whatever might happen, I don't think we ever want to go back to that. And we had always want to advocate, to educate our people that whenever we are not satisfied with the government, we go back to the polls. 2016 was one of the most difficult moments in our political history. And if we could have done it, we could do it again. And for me, as a young person, it is always my advocacy point that if we need to change anything, let's go back to the polls and ensure that we change it right. Coup d'etats and military takeovers should not be our resort at all as Gambians, because we have our fair share of our political history.
And Dejin Njojoba is Deputy Speaker of the National Youth Parliament of the Gambia. And we now join Sankuli Janko for details in the world of sports.
Hello out there, a warm welcome and thank you for joining us. The Confederation of African Football CAF has announced a date and venue for quarterfinals draw of the 2024-25 Total Energies CAF Champions League and CAF Confederation Cup. The draw will be conducted in Qatar's capital, Doha, in partnership with CAF media rights partner beIN Sports on Thursday, 20 February 2025, where CAF will map out the exciting quarterfinal fixtures for both competitions. The quarterfinals of both competitions will be played over 2 legs, with the first leg of the CAF Champions League scheduled for 1 and 2 April and 8 and 9 April, while the Total Energies CAF Confederation Cup quarterfinal fixtures are set to take place on 2 April and 9 April 2025. Both draws will feature the reigning champions of each competition, Al Ahly SC, title holders of the CAF Champions League, and Zamalek SC, the defending CAF Confederation Cup champions. The quarterfinal stage qualified teams are as follows: Al Ahly of Egypt, Al Hilal of Sudan, AS FAR of Morocco, Esperance Sportive de Tunis of Tunisia, Mamelodi Sundowns and Orlando Pirates of South Africa, Pyramids of Egypt, MC Alger of Algeria. And the Confederation Cup quarterfinalist teams are Zamalek SC of Egypt, ASEC Mimosas of Cote d'Ivoire, Al Masar of Egypt, CS Constantine of Algeria, RS Barkhane of Morocco, Simba SC of Tanzania, Stellenbosch FC of South Africa, and USM Alger of Algeria. And that's it for sports. It's back to you.
And we have come to the end of this edition of Newslink here on West Africa Democracy Radio, broadcasting on 94.9 FM Dakar, Senegal. Thank you for listening, and many thanks to Maudu Juf and Umu Danyugo for the technical assistance. Do interact with us on all of our social media platforms: X, formerly Twitter, Instagram at WADR News, and on Facebook at WADR English Service. I am Christopher Ticho. Good evening and enjoy the rest of our broadcasts.
And many thanks to you for listening to Newslink via Hot 1.